Yes, sir. Welcome to
What
another episode of the Blue Bloods College Game Time
Yes,
Podcast.
sir.
It's your boy Trey Smith.
And it's your boy Brandon Holmes. Welcome to the Blue Bloods Podcast, a podcast for the fans, by the fans. We are here again. I'm feeling a little bit more excited today, man. You know, this has been a crazy week for us. I thought we were about to lose Jim Harbaugh. But Chris Bayless just came out and said, looks like Michigan and Harbaugh coming close to a 10-year deal.
Okay.
More money for the assistants, which is what he wanted. Looser transfer rules, which is what he wanted. And more money going into the recruiting and the NIL deal package that's better, that's going to be competitive with the top SEC program. So sounds like, man, he used that NFL some leverage, and after that whooping from Georgia, he realized this is what we need to be competing, competitive, and we went and got it. So I'm in a good mood today, man. I can't complain.
I mean, a CFP appearance and an NFL, teaser got him exactly what he believes he needs for Michigan to be successful. And my team, the old Razorbacks, man, it was a tough week. The portal really started hitting us, losing some key players. I've made a video about that. I'm not going to spend time talking about it here. Just remember, if you're just a listener, you're on one of our streaming platforms with Apple Pod or Spotify. We always post bonus content videos on our YouTube channel at Blue Bloods CGT. Fresh college sports content every single day. Well, B. Holmes, let's get into the Blue Bloods double dribble, because the thing on everybody's mind right now is the national title game, Alabama versus Georgia. We are going to break that game down and preview it. That'll be how we close out this episode. So just hang tight with us if you're listening. But we're going to get into our Blue Bloods double dribble. Obviously, I mean, college football, it's the last game of the season.
Can't believe it, man. That was fast.
And just to clarify, too, whereas we will start probably diving more into the college hoop season, there's still plenty to talk about with college football, even when there's no games happening.
It's year round. It's year round. There's always something. There's always something.
Think about the transfer portal this week. Anyways, we'll get to that in a second. But Blue Bloods double dribble, B. Holmes, we had some upsets. What an upset Saturday. Talk to us about a couple of those.
Man, the first one, man, I actually watched it, was Texas Tech versus number 6 Kansas. And here's the crazy thing. I didn't know this till some guy told me on the video and some of the Texas Tech group. So Texas Tech beat KU 75-67. And they did it without their 2 leading scorers who were out for COVID. So Coach Adams, man, he's really, which I was really impressed, because they got a new head coach this year.
Oh yeah.
But it was the coach that the players voted on.
Yeah.
And so it just made me think, maybe more schools need to pay attention to what the kids want. Like, if you want success and the kids say, this is the coach we'll play for, then maybe you should go ahead and hire that coach.
Oh, well, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say a little background on Mark Adams. So he was actually with Chris Beard going back to Beard's time at Arkansas Little Rock. So,
oh, wow.
Beard was at Arkansas Little Rock. I think they were only there for a year before coming to Tech. They were initially going to go to UNLV, and then the Tech job opened up. But even before that, so Adams was at Texas Tech as like on the admin side, the basketball ops side with Tubby Smith. Then he went to be with Beard at Little Rock, then came back as Beard's assistant in Tech. And what he kind of became known for is he was like the defensive mastermind behind their schemes and how hard they played. And if you look at Texas Tech's kind of rise to prominence on the basketball side of things, they went to the Elite Eight, then they went to the national championship game, and they essentially did it with like 2- and 3-star recruits that they just developed and got to play extremely hard and extremely tough, physical, relentless, just brand of basketball. And then when Beard went to Texas, which is his alma mater, he wanted to take Adams with him. And in the press conference, he said, well, he told me I had to get on a plane, and he told me I had to wear burnt orange. So I said, nah, I think I'll stay here in Lubbock. And I think we're starting to see all throughout the season that the identity that Texas Tech had under Beard, like they're continuing to have under Coach Adams. And it's the same, their same Achilles heel to me is what it is they'll just go through stretches where they can't score the ball. They can't score. So it's like, it doesn't shock me that they beat the number 6 team in the country without their 2 leading scorers, because that's not what their their style of play is built around, right? It's built around playing tough hard-nosed defense, and then turning that into offensive points. But anyways, that's all I got on that. Go ahead.
Oh yeah,
I know.
Hey, no, no, but it's so true because Michigan faced them, I think, like 2 or 3 years ago to go to like the Final Four or something, and they just suffocated us, man. So not shocking there. But the other one I am shocked by, and I shouldn't be, but I haven't really start diving into college hoops till really this weekend. The Coach K farewell tour had somebody crash the party. Miami upset Duke 76-74. They need some good news, man. After this horrible football season they had, they needed some good news. And so I did a little bit of research, man. I didn't realize Miami's 13-3. That's a good record. But not only that, man, they went to Cameron Indoor and beat Duke. So, man, great game, 2-point win. I think, man, I'm excited to see. And I said this yesterday on TikTok. I think because of this extra COVID year, a lot of teams are getting a lot of super seniors. I think this might be one of the most interesting March Madnesses we've ever seen because you have a lot more kids with that extra year, that free year of experience that they got. Yes. So this is what I said on TikTok. You can follow us on TikTok at Blue Blood CGT. I said, do not be shocked if this is the year that a non-power or a team that people expected to win does not win a natty. Like, do not be shocked if you have a team that just comes out of nowhere. That's like, oh my goodness, when in the world did Wichita State come from and win a national? Because of the super seniors, because of the experience, because everybody, the scholarships didn't count against them as normal this year. So I'm interested to see, like, over this next half of the basketball season, because really, I mean, we're halfway to February now, which means we're getting ready to go to the conference championships to get ready for March Madness. So I'm interested to see how hoops kind of plays out the rest of the year.
Yeah, the conference slate from here on out should be real exciting. From where I'm sitting right now on a college basketball side of things, I still think it's the Baylor Bears to lose. I think that them winning it last season sort of lifted their lid, and now there's like this mentality to match the talent that, like, we're supposed to do this, right? And what Scott Drew's been building for the last 2 decades there, I mean, it all came to a head last year, finally winning, busting through, getting that championship. We've hear year in and year out about when is Gonzaga going to become that. You don't really always hear it about Baylor, where they've kind of been that same type of team. The difference is they come from a Power 5 conference, and I'm telling you, they don't have the same type of guards as they had last year, but what I've watched of them this year, from their ability to score, their length, it's like they've got these Kevin Durant 2.0 type players. And what I mean by that is not that they're near his skill set or like him, but the unique combination of size, length, and skill, right? Most people have that much length, and that, like, they're not really going to be real skilled handling with the ball in their hand. Yeah. And so they have a unique combination there. They play just hard-nosed defense as well. I mean, I think Baylor, it's theirs to lose this season as it pertains to college hoops. But like I always say, when March rolls around,
anything's possible.
Anything's possible. So we had a couple others, though. We had those were our 2 top 10 losses. Well, I guess Duke was top 3, top 2. I mean, they're the number 2 team in the country. And don't listen. We know. I mean, Tech was top 25 too. I mean, they were
number 25.
They were number 25. And if you didn't see that video, especially if you're a Tech fan, B. Holmes put up a bonus video about that game specifically. So encourage you to go watch that to get a quick breakdown of that one. But man, we had Iowa State, number 11, fell to OU. And I said this weeks ago when OU and Arkansas were getting ready to play in Tulsa. I said it. OU was coming off a heartbreaking loss to, I believe, Butler, where they had allowed like a 19 or 20-point comeback in the second half. I said, Porter Moser, who, remember, he took Loyola Chicago to the Final Four. That was the season when they had the I can't remember her name, the nun, like the older nun in the wheelchair. Anyways,
what is it?
Sister
Loyola? Sister.
Yeah, Loyola Chicago. Yeah. Chicago. But this guy, he is a mastermind. And I said it weeks ago. I know it looks right now like OU might be having some type of down year, but I'm telling you, by the time February and March rolls around, this is going to be a team to watch. And they just took care of Iowa State.
That brought you some joy, I bet.
And played phenomenally. Oh yeah, Iowa State. What's funny is I don't even connect it to basketball, but yeah, now that you say that, yeah, Iowa State number 11. Hey, talk about a team that needs some good news after that disappointing football season. Number 14, Texas. So we just talked about Beard's former team. Well, now his current team, they just lost to Oklahoma State. Here's what my question is going to be for Beard at UT.
Mm-hmm.
Can he get the top-rated recruits to play the style of basketball that he demands?
No.
That's all I'm going to leave it at. And I'm not going to try and answer that question right now, but I do believe if you even look at Tech, because after that year they went to the Elite Eight and then to the national championship, then he brought in like some 5-star, like some top-rated guys, and they kind of seemingly took a step back and then kind of got back to their roots. And then last year, in fact, played, I think, Arkansas in the second round and lost to go to the Sweet 16. But when you're at Texas, you're going to get the top players in the country.
Absolutely.
I mean, you're at a place where you can go get the actual Kevin Durant of the world. And I just wonder, will he be able to get them to play the style of ball that he believes in? And it's very similar to the question that I asked about Shaka Smart, because you look at Shaka Smart and the success that he had at VCU with that havoc style of basketball. And then he comes to Texas and it was just a different type of player that he was getting in. And I don't feel like Texas was really ever able to play the style of basketball that Shaka Smart truly believes in, which is why he went to Marquette. And I don't know how they're doing currently, but I know to start the season, they opened the season with like a couple of big time upsets, playing the style of ball that he believes in. So we'll have to see how it plays out. The thing about Chris Beard, though, I mean, this guy's coached in the ABA. He's won literally everywhere he's been. So I'm sure he'll figure it out, but just something to keep an eye on as he gets his tenure with the Longhorns kicked off. Or I should say tipped off. Number 15, Alabama fell to Missouri. Alabama, I hate to say this as an Arkansas fan, but they're actually a fun team to watch because they kind of play that old school Loyola Marymount style of ball. The system. If you ever watched the 30 for 30, that's about it. But with the Hank Gathers, Bo Kimball, where it was just get up and down, you're shooting threes and layups and dunks, man. And that's how they play. And you kind of live and die when you play that style of ball. But
it's fun. It's fun to watch.
They fell to Missouri. Yeah, it is fun to watch. But Missouri took care of them. And then finally, to wrap up the double dribble, at least all that I have this week, is Colorado State. They were undefeated. Number 20 team in the country. They suffered their first loss. And who'd they lose to? I can't even. Oh, San Diego State.
Brady Hoke.
San Diego State. And I don't know, is old boy still there? Fab Five, Michigan's coach. Or did he retire finally? He's been there for years.
I thought he
retired.
You about to get me in trouble. I shouldn't.
Come on, I'm gonna get you in trouble because this one.
Oh my gosh.
You know what I'm talking about, though.
Yeah, if you would have never asked me the question, I would have gave you the answer.
Won the title with. He is not there, so you're off the hook. Brian, what season is this for him? Oh, I guess he hadn't been there for a few years, huh?
Steve Fisher. Steve Fisher.
There you go, just in time. Okay, so his last season was all the way back in 2017.
Oh, okay.
Showed you how in the loop I've been with San Diego State. They've just continued to be good, so I just figured he was still there.
Yeah.
Okay, Brian Dutcher. Where did he come from? Let's see. Oh, he was his assistant.
System guy. That sounds like Steve.
Oh, and Dutcher was his assistant at Michigan. Okay.
Makes sense.
Okay, so there's some Michigan roots right there. More Michigan roots with San Diego State.
Now that I know.
They're like Wolverine, West Coast Wolverines, man. Football and basketball.
Man. Football and basketball. That's awesome.
So, anyway, Colorado State first loss season. They were number 20 team in the country. But basketball, it's only going to get more and more exciting from this point on as January plays in. You get into February where you're getting into the second half of conference slate. Early March, you get into those conference tournaments, and we will have all the action as the Blue Blood College Game Time podcast continues to play out and go week to week. But B. Holmes,
yep,
you hit me with this. You said we got to talk about it. The Ohio State Saga.
Oh my!
Anytime
gosh.
you get a chance to have a topic like this, I know it touches a special spot in your heart.
Yes, it does. It does. So for those of y'all who don't know, he was a safety cornerback. He played defensive backfield for Ohio State. Marcus Williamson tweeted he actually opted out of the Rose Bowl and started tweeting during the Rose Bowl about his experience at Ohio State. And you know, you can go read them. But essentially, I'm going to give you a Cliff Notes version where he was just pretty much saying how essentially dysfunctional the system is ran. The things he tweeted though, Trey, didn't surprise me. If you have any semblance or a resemblance of what or knowing what college sports is like, it's not shocking. Like there's a story I always tell about. I knew a kid when I ran track in college, and this kid came from Missouri. I can't remember. Won't say his name, but comes in, dude. Was a hurdler. Our long jumper got hurt right before conference. Kid said he long jumped in high school. Wins conference as a true freshman and long jump. Sounds great. Kind of starts feeling himself a little bit. Coach is cracking down on him a little bit harder because the kid has talent. Messes around and just kind of starts missing a practice or two, and does some things. And this is when I knew college sports was real. I had these two moments, and this is why I'm going full circle. These two moments I knew college sports was real when I was an athlete. He shows up to practice one day with a boot on his foot, and coach goes off. What the bleep, boy? I'm going to send you back home to your mama. Matter of fact, get that off my track. I'm like, oh, tough love. I'm coming from high school. Tough love. Have a team meeting 2 days later. For those of you guys who don't know, such and such is no longer on the team. Don't worry about it. So that was like my one. My second one is one of my training partners. And she was one of the best in the state, and she was a highly regarded recruit that came in, and she started dating this guy, and just wasn't always calling out whatever. And I'll never forget this. We're on the bus to go to, I think I'm getting ready to go to Arkansas. I'm getting ready to run at Arkansas.
Okay.
Coach sit next to me on the bus. He goes, do you have such and such's number? I said, yeah. I go, yeah, I think she's sick. I don't think she's traveling this week. He goes, oh, okay. Calls her. He says, hey, just so you know, we're on our way to Arkansas. Just know when we get back, you no longer have a spot on the team. We'll finish out paying out the semester because it's paid for, but after that. And then that's when I realized, oh, this is real. And so I had to tell those stories to get people, because we get a lot of people that are saying, how could you say that about an institution that gave you a free education? And what essentially Marcus Williamson was saying was, it's not really a free education. You can't, most people don't understand this about athletes. They can't, especially high profile sports, football and basketball, you're essentially controlled on what you really can go to study. That's a fact. You will go and they'll be like, that does not coincide well with your football or your basketball schedule. You're here to play football or basketball, right? On top of that, most people don't understand, and this is why, and we'll probably get to this later about transfer portal, you're on a semester-to-semester contract. Just because you get the offer and you sign does not mean it's for 4 years. You have end of the season evaluation. So I say all that to give myself to build the house as we bring it home with Marcus Williamson. Essentially what he was saying is, which I appreciate, he opted out and he said for the first time he could think clear. Because he goes, you put your body on the line for these institutions, yet these coaches, and the people who run it can do, say, and treat you any kind of way. And there's really no repercussion. And it puts you in a weird position as a young man or a young woman, because women, a lot of college athletes that are women go through this, and it's not as highlighted because it's a woman's sport. But you're put in an odd position as a young adult to make a decision because for a lot of these, this is how the only way you're going to pay for school. This is the only way you're going to probably make, without having it. It's your only way out for a lot of these athletes. And so you put yourself under immense pressure. You put yourself under a lot of body fatigue. You'll play hurt because the moment I take a play off or I decide not to go, they can either cut me because they want to, or the next guy's going to come up and take my spot, or a woman's going to take my spot, and then I'm still going to lose and get cut. And so these kids put themselves in weird, peculiar places because what else are they going to do? And then I'll add on to the fact of you have the pressure of, I can say for Marcus, you're praying in front of 100,000 people every week. Millions, actually, because Ohio State's always on TV. And so I think.
Hey, but as you said, that's why you go to Ohio State.
That's why you go to Ohio State, right? It's the trade-off. And anybody who said that the thing is why I highlighted it and why at first it gave me joy, but I'm like, it's sad because it's really just showing and I hate ragging on the guy because I really want him to do better. Like I champion all people for the most part, but it showed me the kind of it showed me what I thought always kind of went down to Urban Meyer programs. It you heard about it, but as we know in college sports, winning cures and covers everything. If you win, nobody cares. Because you're winning and you're bringing in money and you're bringing in notoriety and you're bringing in the top flight athletes. But to me, it highlights a problem that we have, not just in Ohio. It's not just an Ohio State problem. I believe it's just a college sports problem. And that's why I'm actually such a major fan of the NIL deals. Because a guy like Marcus Williamson, who's not going to get drafted, he's not. He's probably not going to make it in the league. But I wonder how much money he could have at least made while playing for Ohio State, being an Ohio State starter.
Right.
He probably could have made, I'm being conservative. He could have made at least $150K over his 4 years, if not more, probably more. So I just think it's a problem in college sports. I think NIL brings a little balance, but I think this highlights a grander picture for a lot of these athletes and the pressure that they face. Because that's the thing. Most people don't understand the ins and outs and the between the lines of it. I used to hear that argument all the time. Well, you're getting a free education, but I'm told what I can study. They get to tell me what I can study. And they don't also tell you, most kids don't know that when they sign. This is a semester to semester contract that you sign. So after the season, ask any athlete. You'll have your end of the season evaluation, and your coach tells you if he's going to re-up. They'll tell you, hey, we decided to continuously extend your offer, or hey, son, just so you know, you didn't cut it. We're actually bringing in 3 new 5-stars. Your spot's no longer here. I mean, Jim Harbaugh caught a lot of flack when he first came to Michigan, and he wasn't guaranteeing 5-year seniors that they get the 5th year. He was telling you have to earn your spot. That's just the polarization of college sports. So I thought it was weird that he did it during the Rose Bowl, but I also see why he. It's when everybody was tweeting about it's in the midst of the game, and I just hope, man, it sheds some light on college sports in general, because I think there's some systematic things that need to be fixed.
Well, and I had 2 things from that because I read the thread when it started trending, which I mean, as well as I do. He did it during the Rose Bowl game because that's when it was going to get the most attention.
Yep, exactly. Right.
But it reminded me of when we had Dwayne Autry on our show, right? And we interviewed him. And if you haven't heard that, I'd highly recommend you to go listen to that.
Great interview.
He's he didn't play big time D1 ball, but he is a former college football player. He's played professionally in the arena and indoor leagues and has kind of become a top player in that regard in those leagues. But he really just provided a very sound perspective on across multiple different topics. But one of the things he spoke to was exactly what you were just speaking to, where he was talking about balancing being a student athlete or being an athlete and a student, because you remember he was saying he was on partial track scholarship, football scholarship, and academic scholarship.
Yeah.
But he talked about how often once he hit a certain kind of notoriety, he would get pulled from his classes to tend to athletic obligations that weren't necessarily even directly related to practice or a game. It was more of like interviewing with a local media or a newspaper. And I don't remember specifically all the details of it. And that's why I say, if you haven't heard it, it's just a great interview. I'd recommend you go. It's on YouTube and it's on our streaming platforms. But he talked a lot about that as far as just know if you're going to go be a college athlete, just remember, like, you got to go in and make sure you get everything out of it while you're there, because they're definitely going to get everything out of you. And then my other thing on that, what was it with Williamson? When you're talking about there has to be a way to bring some balance, because the reality is as well, like coaches or programs too, you know, I'm thinking from the coach's perspective, if this guy's guaranteed a 4-year scholarship, what's to prevent him from continuing to do what it takes to earn it? Right. And so it's like, and that's where I always wonder, when can insurance policies in the NCAA, like, my brain doesn't fully understand that world enough to really be able to like put a practical plan in place, but there has to be some sort of path where particularly the athletes that could go on to make big money, and even ones that couldn't, could find a way to get some sort of financial incentive out of putting themselves through this process beyond just, to your point, a free education. Because like you said, $150,000 over the course while you're in college, if you just dump that in compounding interest, some sort of account with compounding interest, you could possibly set yourself up for the rest of your life. Now, you're not going to be this big time NFL baller type money, but
you live comfortably.
You could be possibly financially independent and be able to pursue whatever it is that you want to pursue once your playing days are officially over. But it shed a light. And then I will say this, there were a couple things that, and again, it's this person versus this person, but Urban Meyer has denied some of the things that he said from that thread. But since we are on Urban Meyer, I've put a video up earlier this week, or depending on when you're watching or listening to this, last week. About him and Notre Dame, and it's continuing to get the same response. Oh, Notre Dame wouldn't touch him. I'm just telling you, if he just disappears for a year and just falls off the map and doesn't end up on the media, doesn't end up on social media, doesn't do anything stupid, he just maybe even go to the broadcast booth, but I think he could just totally go under the radar. If he wants it, he will get a top head coaching job in college football.
Without a doubt.
He will. That's just, it's where we're at as a, I mean, and I think at a place like Notre Dame, he's the type of guy that could go there and win big. Now, as I've said, I do like Coach Marcus Freeman. I hope he is there for a long haul and has success. I just think there's like this, they're each kind of the apple of the other's eye. And despite all the bad press and bad publicity, I even made a comment in the Lincoln Riley USC video I posted earlier this weekend about Urban Meyer and Notre Dame, and something, because that's the season finale for 2022 for Notre Dame and USC. They play each other. And people are like, oh, Urban to Notre Dame is just silly. And it's like, I get it. Right now, it definitely sounds like it, and it is. And it's very silly until it happens. Until it starts to become a, so
he doesn't need a year off.
I'm not willing to like die on the hill of Urban to Notre Dame. I mean, I really don't care personally. It's just looking at the outlay, looking at his history. I mean, it's not like he's ever been squeaky clean anywhere he's ever left.
No,
yet he's still able to get, but I'd say it's either going to be Notre Dame or it's going to be Ohio State, depending on what happens with Ryan Day.
He doesn't need a year off, and I know we're about to move on. If Urban goes quiet for 6 months, some big time program, and I've said it. I said it before. You said Notre Dame. I said Texas. I said those are two. Yeah. Those are two programs that I could see him going. Because if we know anything about Urban, he has to go where it's a big name, a big brand, and where he could have full control of everything. And in the world of college football, there's only a few institutions that will give you full control. Notre Dame's one of those. Texas, I mean, you got to deal with regents, but that's at every big school.
Texas is not one of those unless you're
Urban Meyer, right? That's the one place he could. He's the one person that could go there and
could get that type of
get that type of treatment. So I wouldn't be shocked if in 2022 he's coaching somewhere. Wouldn't be.
We'll see how it plays out. Well, moving on from that, we did have the Army All-American game this weekend.
Yes, sir.
And hey, Coach Prime,
baby,
strikes again.
Coach Prime.
So if you didn't see, obviously he already has the number 1 overall recruit in the country.
Yes, sir.
Signed to Jackson State. And he just landed another one,
the number 54 inside slot receiver, Kevin Coleman.
But is he the 4th receiver in the country?
I think
overall receiver?
I think number 4 overall receiver, number 54 recruit overall.
Period. Yeah. So I mean that's almost two top 50. I mean he's 54, but almost 2 top 50 recruits like in a signing class going to Jackson State.
Some Power Fives have never had that. Some Power Fives have never had that.
Yeah, the top overall recruit and another like
some Power Fives don't get top 50 kids.
Man, that's very true.
Most Power Fives don't get 2 top 50 kids. So shout out to Dion.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how that continues to play out because this guy I think had it down to Florida State, Miami. It's funny too. It seems like specifically the ones that he's getting, it's like Florida State is they're lean. I think this guy, Kevin Coleman, I think it was Miami was a favorite, but FSU was right there, and Dion comes in.
I think it's beautiful, man. Away. I think it's beautiful. What's the Doug Williams, the quarterback, former quarterback? He said he goes, man. If I was a top recruit in the country right now, he goes, and Dion walked in my house. He's so charismatic. He goes, I would seriously probably consider playing at Jackson State. And I love it for this fact, man. Jackson State's going to be on a lot of televisions next year because people are going to want to see, one, trolls and supporters are going to see how good Travis Hunter really is because he was the number 1 overall recruit. And then people are going to see, they're going to want to see either Dion do well or trolls to say, well, he's still getting all this talent and he can't win. But then I think it's even more beautiful, man, because it's highlighting HBCUs. And a lot of these kids, there's a kid from FAMU. Man, I wish I could remember his name. He got invited to the combine.
The safety, right?
Yeah. But that's a big deal, man. That's all Prime really wanted was we got kids at these institutions that can ball. We just we need to give them a chance. And so I think, like we said, this has been a pilgrimage of some sorts for Dion. This has been a purpose move where he's like, one, I want to bring money back to these historically black institutions, which I'm fully on board for. But two, I want to shed some light to these kids that come to these schools. Like, no, if you give them a chance, they can play football. Like, they can ball. And so, man, I'm not going to lie. I'm excited to, I'm going to find a way. I think you can, there's a package on Jackson State's athletic website that you can pay for to watch all the games. I'm probably going to do that next year because
I get that subscription.
Yeah, I was already bought into Dion, but I'm more bought in ever because I want to see, okay, man, you're getting some high quality. He got a great transfer in this year. I mean, he's bringing some high quality talent.
Yeah, it's a JUCO guy. Yeah.
I'm all on board.
I was able to watch probably 4 or 5 Jackson State. Jackson State was always either on my second or third screen on college football Saturdays this season because I was able to get them mostly on ESPN3. So you just go into the watch ESPN app. And so I was able to kind of watch them. And his sons being on the team adds to the storyline of why they'll probably, I could see them, to your point, getting more like ESPN2, even some ESPN games, maybe depending on that weekend slate and who they're playing. Here's what I think people sometimes kind of forget too, is when they're so quick to go, oh, it's cheating. Like, remember when Travis Hunter, right? That's the number 1.
That's the number 1 guy.
It was like, oh, he has a multi-million-dollar deal with Barstool, and that's what set it up. It's all this. You have to remember, all these top recruits have families, right? They have dads, they have uncles, they have moms, they have aunts, they have grandparents. Who did all those people grow up or in their adult life watch? Like, who was their favorite player, right, during their era of when they were exactly like I can't think of another coach who has that type of influence as a player over the fathers, uncles, moms, aunts, even grandparents of today's, high school athletes and today's, up and coming college athletes. And so there's not anyone really in that pocket of people who don't know who Deion Sanders is.
Exactly.
Right? I mean, like, and this is, I'm going to say it. Deion, trying to think if I want to say this. I'm going to say, imagine if Michael Jordan, even though I do have to put Mike in a totally different stratosphere as it pertains to like name recognition and like iconic status, even though, don't get me wrong, Deion, I mean, playing both sports, doing what he did and impacting the culture and impacting the game and becoming as notable as he was. But I'm just thinking if someone, and here's my point. If someone like Michael Jordan became the head basketball coach, even though he's proven like as a GM, it's like, I'm just saying, I know with all the, my point is on just name recognition, like most high school athletes today, their dads and uncles and like the people raising them, they're MJ, right? They're pro MJ because they're from the generation that came up on watching MJ do his thing. And it's like most of them, right? And so my point in saying that is you have to take into account that the most influential people in the lives of these recruits, like they were influenced in some way by Deion Sanders. Like they were when Deion was a player, and now he's a coach, and now he's showing that he's not just some like flash in the pan. Like I'm just here to kind of like try to cash in off of my name and have some big publicity stunt. No, I mean, like go watch his documentary. Like he's in the trenches, like he's grinding, he's having conversations with those players, he's trying to make men out of boys through the game of football. It's not just about like me, which is the perception he put off as a player. And that's what a lot of people think that he is. But if you even hear him talk about that, he's like, I did that for show. He's like, I created this image for money. Like, but if you really get to the root of who Deion's like actually a very old school guy.
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
Very old school, like minded individual. And it's just funny because even like on his board, he had put like some of the rules for their dress code or something. And people were like, oh, like there was a picture back in the last spring where he was a picture of him, but on his whiteboard, it had like some expectations as far as their attire and all that. Like, oh, you used to wear, people were trolling, getting on there. It's like, yeah, but you got to understand, like his whole point was like, we're going to earn this stuff.
Right.
Yeah. You look good. You feel good. You play good. They pay good and all that. He's like, but there's a process to earning that. And anyways, not to get on another rant about that, but I think it's important to remember like
who he is.
It's not, yeah, that's right. Who he is. Like
it's Deion,
don't lose sight of that. And like he is the one individual that could go to an HBCU or any university. He could go to Kansas. I mean, he could go wherever and he's going to be able to recruit.
Yep.
Because of what he's already done in his career as a player. And then you look at what he did really for 2 decades in the Dallas area as a little league coach. I mean, that's what's crazy. A lot of that are becoming top recruits were a part of his Truth football program.
Right. And then people also forget, man, he coached the All-American game every year with Under Armour. Yeah. So he's never lost touch of the current youth. And we have to remember, we've said it on an earlier podcast, all these kids talk. Like, this is the new era of athletes. Just because a guy's in the league, that doesn't mean he's not talking to the guy that's coming in high school. Like, they're always at camps together. Like, social media has shrunk the gap of you being able. So it's like the top number one. Travis Hunter, I'm guarantee you, has some NFL guys' numbers in his phones. Guarantee you, he talks to some of those guys. So those guys now play a role because everybody knows Prime. And everybody can be like, man, yeah, I mean, Prime can get you right. And now these guys can ask pros questions like, do I really need to go to Florida State to go to the league? And it's like, nah, little homie, like, go here. He going to get you right. And if you can ball, they'll come find. The game, I love it because the game of recruiting is still the game of recruiting, but Prime is adding a new type of a new type of swag that only he can bring to recruiting. It's
yeah.
because he's been there and because of who he is outside of the field and the respect he has. Yeah, he's a problem to deal with. And I believe, man, if those two kids have success, which I believe they will, dude, it's over. He's gonna keep reeling them in, man.
Dude, and think about this. All the head coaches in the NFL right now, you know, if they're a younger guy, like they're not one of the older, then they were a fan of Deion growing up, right? Like if they were if it's an NFL head coach that's mine or your age, like they know who Deion Sanders is as a player from the same perspective we do.
Right.
If it's an older coach who hasn't been a head coach very long, they were probably the quality control guys. They were the assistant coaches back when Deion was a player. And then if there's, I don't know if there are any. I know Mike Zimmer.
Zimmer's his guy because him and Zimmer talk all the time.
Yeah, he was the defensive coordinator or defensive backs coach in Dallas when Deion played in Dallas. Like my point is he has just as much influence talking with these NFL coaches and execs from his time as a player. So it's like if there's anyone that's going to be able to get someone a look, if he calls Mike Zimmer and says, you need to come to this kid's pro day, Mike Zimmer's going to go.
Right.
In fact, Mike Zimmer hired somebody for his
staff.
Viking staff off of Jackson State's staff.
His strength coach.
So, yeah, strength coach. So anyways, we can move on from that. I don't really have any other. There was a lot. I know there were a lot of commitments that were made, and we'll have to do as we get closer to signing day, a recruiting type deal. But that was obviously the big one of the All-American game on Saturday, and then obviously this past week, man, and it's going to continue to happen for the next month or so, or really next few months, because it's not like the transfer portal ever closes, but
even
transfer portal's going crazy. Just a couple headlines. Casey Thompson in Nebraska, which Bia Holmes was all over that from the beginning. You can go look through the archives of our YouTube channel. We hadn't talked a lot about that really at all on the actual podcast on our show, but there are videos, and shout out to our Nebraska fans. Caleb Williams and Mario Williams from OU. There's smoke around them heading to USC. Mario Williams is currently in Los Angeles. Caleb Williams, it's still kind of up in the air. There's still Ole Miss. There's still Georgia. There's still all, a couple of different places he could land. But as of late, UCLA and USC are also expected to be up there in the running. So we'll see how that plays out. Dylan Gabriel, the former UCF quarterback, is now at OU. OU is now allegedly making a rumor for Purdy, who you also kind of have mentioned could be in the mix at Nebraska.
Yep.
Is it Zach Calzada, A&M's quarterback, the guy who beat Bama? Auburn went and got him. And then fresh as of I think Sunday morning, Plumlee, Miles, the Ole Miss backup quarterback
who played receiver this year,
he is headed to UCF. So
really? Okay.
Yeah. Cool. So he could be the he could be the guy to take the reins over there with Gus Malzahn, and I think Chip Lindsey's who he ended up hiring. So anyways, I think when we get to talking about the transfer portal, and we can make this quick because we want to get to the national title game preview, but it's the wild, wild west. But getting back to your point, it's on one hand, it's like it's destroying college football. And then on the other hand, like it's balancing college football. Can they not look to, I don't know, the NFL or some other entity to see how they, B. Holmes was up late last night. So if you saw that big yawn just now, I'm just kidding.
Watching Money Heist.
But can we do something where like coaches can't interview for positions from this time to this time, and players can't? I mean, it just seems like right now coaches can just go where they want, when they want, whenever they want. Players now can go where they want, when they want, whenever they want. And at one point it was just one-sided, right? Like only the coaches could do that, but the players, man, if you left, you had to sit out of here. Now you can transfer one time. Have immediate eligibility as an undergrad, and it's just kind of completely shifted the lens. Then you combine the NIL. We probably don't have enough time to get into it, but there has to be a way to structure this where it makes sense, right? I mean, there has to be.
Yeah. I think well, first shout out to Jim Harbaugh. He's the one who got behind the one free transfer year rule. Most people don't know that. He's the one who loved the idea of the free transfer and
Okay.
put it in front of the board, which I agree with. I think no coaches should be, like you said, NFL. There should be a period. Like, even if you fire a coach mid-season, you can't contact another coach until his season is over. There needs to be some type of tampering stuff in place.
Right.
But I think with transfer portal, because I've been doing some research and stuff on it, like now recruiting departments are now having strictly transfer portal like divisions of their recruiting department, like that. Mel Tucker has one. He's kind of put Bama has one, of course.
Eric Musselman, basketball coach at Arkansas, has one.
Like, yeah, it's just a thing. I think I'm all cool if a kid wants to leave in the middle of the year. That's fine. Like, I mean, coming from high school sports, you have it all the time. Kids quit in the middle of the year. If that's what you want to do, that's what you want to do. And I'm not going to say if you transfer, you're quitting. That's you. I think, though, there should be another signing period for it. So it's like, okay, even if you decide to get out, all right, maybe starting bowl season is when you can, from bowl season to actual signing day in February, you can decide to make if you want to transfer. And coaches can kind of, because like what a coach said, and there's very few times I have like empathy for college coaches, but they're like, it's just so much because I'm like recruiting my current roster to make sure they're good. Then I got to recruit the transfer portal because I'm definitely going to lose some kids. Then I still got to recruit the high schoolers. And it's, I don't know, the NCAA has to figure it out because it's drastically shifted high school recruiting though. Especially in the quarterback. I read a cool article how like this one coach was saying it out of Florida. He was like, I got a kid right now 4 years ago before the transfer portal. He would be on every major school's radar right now. But he goes, all the college coaches in my phone were like, it's a safer bet for us to already get somebody who's already been in college than getting the high school kid. And so it's shifting the recruiting landscape. I think everything always balances itself out eventually. It's crazy in the beginning. It's everywhere. Then you kind of find rules, regulations. I think the best thing to do is like to have a signing period. You can have two. You can have, hey, we have one from the end of bowl season till signing day in February. And then I think you're going to have another wave of kids transfer again after spring ball once they kind of see. And then you do one from the end of semester till whenever like fall camp is supposed to start in like August. And I think if you create two signing periods in the transfer portal, I think it brings a little bit because kids are going to transfer no matter what. It is what it is. But I think it can bring some regulation to that. And then there should be penalties for. I mean, I don't think you can stop other coaches from recruiting because kids, based upon the NCAA rules, and I don't know how much this has changed, but if you can't reach out to an athlete, but an athlete can reach out to you. So you're never going to stop a kid who has a real say if I'm getting recruited by Michigan, chances are I probably got recruited by State. So I probably have a relationship with the guy on State, even if I committed to U of M. Nobody can stop me from saying, yo, Coach Smith, hey, things aren't going over well at Michigan. I'm looking at transfers. They're open. I can do that. So you can't really stop that. But I think if you create two signing periods strictly, because even On3, the new recruiting site, they have a whole like recruiting transfer portal ranking now. Like, so I think you just create a separate signing period for transfers. You keep them. And then I also agree, I think they need to get rid of the early signing day anyways. Like, just have one time. Like, this is when we're going to recruiting from here to here. This is it. You can sign your letter of intent, whether you're a transfer, whether you're a high school guy, and have for transfers 2 different segments in the year to do it. One at the end of the season, one at the end of spring ball going into the summer, and then call it quits. I think that's the best way to do it.
Or, yeah, I mean, what if you just made the February signing day a transfer portal day and then the early signing day in December? I mean, well, you can't do that because if you did that, then you got to look at the coaching, because that's where it also comes into play is, hiring and firing and replacing coaches or coaches leaving. I mean, that's where there needs to be some structure and
they got to figure out the scholarship situation because you're only allotted, I think, 25 a year. That's why like Saban and them they gray shirt kids. So they have to figure out a way. So I think because it frustrates me when I play NCAA 14, right? So this is how this is going to parallel. Because NCAA 14, you're only allowed to carry 70 players, but there's times where a lot of kids declare for the draft, and I just have this rule: my kids declare for the draft in NCAA 14. I don't convince them to stay; I just let them go. And so there's times where I'm like, well, I'm under the 70 player limit. I should be able to have a few more scholarships to hit my 70. I shouldn't always be capped at 25.
25, yeah.
So I think if the NCAA could do that, where it's like, okay, this is how many you can carry on a roster on scholarship. And you're not just, so if it is 70, because that's just the number I can go off of NCAA, it's like, because I really think it's 85 in real life. But it's like, so let's say if it's 70, it's like, okay, if you lose 25 kids, because you're going to lose a fourth year roster every year to seniors, you do that plus transfers. So you lose 30 kids, you should be allowed to bring in 30 kids the next year to fill up those spots. So I think there's a lot across the landscape that they got to figure out with transfers, because that's where coaches are thinking, and that's why it's affected high school recruiting. It's like, hey, dude, if I can risk this on a proven player versus taking a chance on this young guy figuring it out, I just think there's a lot of regulation that needs to happen quickly.
Yeah. And then don't even what adds a whole nother curveball to it is the NIL piece. Then you go, okay, so where does that come into play as far as luring players away from their current situation? You know, how do we prevent this from just becoming a unregulated free agency?
Right.
But, and again, with the direction it's going, there may be some things they have to model after the professional league, right? They have to model after the NFL. So, all right, well, let's get into this national title. We got the rematch, Alabama, Georgia. And I was surprised by this, but Georgia's favored.
Yeah, I know. I
minus
put money down on
-2.5. So
put the money line on Bama.
And my first thought when looking at this matchup is, and I was researching this today and I couldn't find it. And if you're listening and you know of one, please send it to us. Like just because I couldn't find it in my research doesn't mean this is right, but I could not find a time in college football history, really more so modern day history, where a former walk-on quarterback won the national title. Found some really good former walk-ons that were quarterbacks, but none that won it all. And even a guy like Baker Mayfield, though, right? He started off as a walk-on, but then he ended up becoming the number 1 overall pick. Like, that's not what we're dealing with Stetson Bennett. Yeah. And I just can't see a scenario where Saban loses this game of this magnitude to Stetson Bennett. Now, I have some keys here, because that's the angle I've been coming across. The angle I've been coming at this from is, okay, if I'm Georgia, like, what do we have to do to win? Right. And I have 3 things. I put it down, like, 3 keys. If Georgia's going to win this game, it comes down to 3 things. And a lot of this was I referenced back to the SEC championship. First thing is, this is like just a rule of thumb in football, but Stetson Bennett has to protect the football. He cannot turn the ball over and expect Georgia to win, because he's not going to go beat Bama, right?
Right.
So he can't beat Georgia as well. And you beat yourself when you turn the ball over. And if you think about the SEC championship, I think he threw 2 picks, and one of them was a very untimely pick 6. In fact, it was when Georgia was down 31-17, but it was their possession in the 4th quarter. They were driving, moving the ball, boom, pick 6. And that's when I think most people turn the TV off.
Right.
It was like, okay. And if they didn't turn off, like, this game's over.
It's over.
So he cannot turn the ball over if Georgia's going to win this national title game. Secondly, I think they have to, and I don't know, there's 2 ways you go about doing this, okay? But they've got to prevent Bama from scoring in bunches.
Yeah.
What got out of hand in the SEC championship was the 2nd quarter when Bama scored, I think, 24 points. They put up a 24 points. I mean, they almost doubled the amount of points Georgia had been allowing on average all season. They almost doubled that total in one quarter.
Yeah.
And so part of it was Georgia wasn't used to that type of just when it rains, it pours, because they hadn't faced that all season. But if you think about it, Bama controlled the game in the first quarter. Going into the second quarter, they were up 10-0. Were they up 10-0? With possession, I think. Or did they go up 10-0 at the beginning of the quarter? I think they went up 10-0 to start the second quarter. It felt like they were controlling the game. It felt like they were controlling the tempo. It felt like they were controlling the time of possession. And then Bama just exploded. And they scored 24. I don't know if they were all unanswered, but they scored 24 points in that one quarter alone. And so somehow they've either got to control the time of possession, which means they're going to have to be able to run the ball early. But I think that keeping Bryce Young off of the field, unless they've got some mastermind strategy that they didn't display in the SEC championship, which who knows, maybe Kirby Smart's got a plan for this. I think they're going to have to control the time of possession, and they're in order to keep Bama from scoring in bunches. Like they're going to have to, if they're going to punt the ball away, they got to at least have a drive. Right? Like they can't go 3 and out. Like if they're going 3 and out and they're turning the ball over, like they don't stand a chance. And then finally, I think they have to build an early lead, similar to what they were doing in round one of this, in part one of this. But they're going to have to build an early lead, and they're going to have to get Brock Bowers involved early and often. Like that was the one bright spot of that SEC championship for Georgia. It's like every time they went to him, good things happen. Now, the balance is Nick Saban has the film of that. And I'm sure the one thing he's been harping for the last week or whatever it's been is, here's our plan for this guy. But I feel like if Georgia's going to win this game, like it's going to be the style of game where they hold off a Bama surge. You get what I'm saying? Like where Bama's making a late surge to win the game. Georgia's offense probably is stalling out because Stetson Bennett, it's crunch time, and Stetson Bennett, so they need to build an early lead before the game really settles in, keep Bama from scoring in bunches, control the time of possession, and not make Stetson Bennett have to go win it for you. Because if they end up in that situation, it's over. And all that to say, I'm predicting, as I said last week on this pod, Bama wins.
When Nick Saban shows up to the national championship presser with the brown leather jacket, it's over.
That was a Top Gun style brown leather jacket.
Saban has looked so relaxed. Like even after they beat Cincinnati, just that picture that's gone viral. Like you just saw the look in his face. Like,
dude, that wasn't even of that game, though, I don't think.
Oh, it wasn't?
Dude, I think Derrick Henry was in that photo. So Bleacher Report, I think, just snagged it and put him. If we're talking about the same picture.
Yeah, we're probably talking about that. Okay, well, whatever. That's why the internet's powerful. I was like, if he was looking like that after they beat Cincinnati, this is what I say, man. It's funny. Georgia's been calling Bryce Young the gingerbread man. If the gingerbread man, catch him if you can. If the gingerbread man can ball out, it's over. Now, the only thing is Michi is hurt. He tears ACL in the SEC championship game.
So that's one thing Georgia won't have to worry about.
They don't have to worry about, but
they did at least for that first half.
But listen, if there's anything suspect about Georgia, is the back half. Now, the thing is their front seven can get to you quickly. But that was like the one bright spot that Michigan that I did see when they played Georgia is when they did test the corners. We had enough speed to get behind them. We scored both of those drives. We were able to complete long passing plays. Mm-hmm. Now, if Alabama can give Bryce Young enough time back there, I think he torches Georgia's back end again. So I mean, you've kind of covered it all of the ways they can beat them. I didn't even go into an extreme detail because I just don't think they can beat them. I think not because they're not more talented. One, I think Nick Saban is in their head. I think Bama is in their head. And I think it's one of those things. It's like Tebow time. Remember, like Tebow time when Tebow played, whether it's the NFL or college. You just had, and I had a friend that played against Tebow. Like he played at Florida State when Tebow played at Florida, and he said it. I was like, "How real was that?" He goes, "It's the most surreal thing." He goes, "You're winning, you're playing good." Then he goes, all of a sudden, it's kind of like how Malcolm talked about
Manziel. Yep.
All of a sudden, you're just kind of like, it's happening. He goes, and you're fighting the psychological battle of it's happening. And the team on the other side is like, oh, it's happening. And so I think Bama has that for Georgia because what was it, like 2-3 years ago, they did the walk-off touchdown, Devontae Smith and Tua. Like, I think, like you said, they have to get a lead and hold off the Bama surge because the Bama surge is going to happen. And I think when the Bama surge happens, it's going to come down not to plays, it's going to come down to mental. Can Georgia not get in the scary position of it's happening? It's happening. Because the moment they start thinking it's happening, it's going to happen. And we've seen Bryce Young doesn't need much. Once he gets that spark going, it's hard to slow the kid down, man. So my money's on Bama. I'm being honest. I don't bet often, but my money's on the Bama money line. To me, that's free money. Why bet against? This is what I'm saying. Why bet against the GOAT? Nick Saban is the greatest college football coach of all time. I will go down and say it. He's going to be the greatest college football coach of all time until anybody else can prove to me that they can beat him. Because what? Clemson's the only person that beat him, and it took all-world talent Trevor Lawrence, the golden boy, a child from Zeus, to come out of nowhere and have the game of his life.
And Deshaun Watson got him.
And Deshaun Watson. Okay, two potential. I mean, we know what Deshaun was in college. We know what Trevor was in college. Like two all-world caliber quarterbacks who both were first-round draft picks, top of their class. To beat Stetson Bennett's not that. He's not that. And Nick Saban, as long he's gonna find a way. He's gonna if my life is on the line and I could bet on one game and one coach to win the game, I'm putting my money on Nick Saban. It's that simple.
And the other problem is, if you're Georgia or a Georgia fan, is does Kirby Smart believe he can beat Nick Saban? It's crazy because you look at what they came out and did to Michigan. And on some level, he has to have reverence for Jim Harbaugh just because of who Jim Harbaugh was as a player, as an NFL coach. And then he's had tremendous success at the collegiate level, never won it all, but neither is Kirby. And so, but it's like you didn't get any type of sense that there was any type of mental advantage there. But man, when it comes to Saban, and you're right. I saw that picture with that leather jacket. I mean, it looked like he pulled that leather jacket out from 1981.
Boy, when he went on Top Gun when it first came out.
He was a, head coach at Kent State or GA or whatever. Maybe, I don't know what he was doing in 81. I mean, like, he's had that jacket for a while. Save it for the right time.
I retweeted it the other day.
I would love for this to be a good game, just for the sake of... if you're just listening, B. Holmes just held the picture up to the camera, showed his little Top Gun brown leather.
Somebody said
brown.
In 15 years, I've never seen Nick Saban wear a leather jacket. Bama by 90.
I just, because you remember a few years ago when these two teams played in the championship, it was their first time seeing each other all season.
Yeah.
Because Georgia beat Auburn in the national title, in the SEC championship that year. And then Bama came in, and obviously they had Jalen Hurts, and they weren't able to establish the run. And that's the thing with Georgia. And that was kind of the same thing that season. Is Saban knew, okay, if we're going to beat this team, we've got to be able to do it throwing the ball. And our best option throwing the ball is this freshman I have over here that I'm about to put in at half. Well, now, like, he doesn't have that problem. Now it's like
to make that call, though.
Yeah, it is big time. Now it's I'll tell you what could really, like, how good is that guy at Georgia that's not playing?
JT Daniels?
Yeah.
He's a 5-star.
How good is he?
He's
I know.
Nice.
And he was at USC, right?
Yeah. He's nice. There's rumor, though, that he could have played, but there's been some beef going on between him and the coaching staff, and his personal doctor is signing off that he shouldn't play. That's been on the message rumor boards that he could have been playing, but he's decided not to. So
I've also thought too about this, and there's several reasons for this. Bama had a little more tempo. Bama was playing. Even in my preview of the SEC championship, I talked about them playing the game laterally, and I was seeing it more from getting Bryce Young on the move laterally, but they were playing laterally with quick screens, those little smoke screens. Where Jordan Davis, it's like there were long stretches in that SEC championship where he was not on the field.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you go watch that Michigan game, and it's the same dude you've seen all season disrupting offenses. And so I'm wondering, is there something there? Like, was that by design? Like,
I think so.
Was Kirby in some weird way going, okay, I'm just going to take this game to just see what they throw at us because we're going to play again. But then
I don't think so. I think he just got out-coached, man. Now, people did say maybe they didn't come out with as much fire because they were guaranteed a playoff spot.
It wasn't do or die for them.
But it's like, this is how I feel, and I don't know. I just don't believe that because any athlete at any level, that's like, I went to Centennial. Those who were Texas listening get this. It's like, if I got an opportunity to play Frisco High twice in football, I want to whoop them both times. Mm-hmm. I want to. There is no, I want to see them again. No. I want to, and Georgia players have probably heard you can't beat Bama. So I don't think I would be shocked. Maybe they did and they said, we'll figure it out. I think Saban just straight up outcoached them and they were not prepared for what he rolled out there.
It's just funny you just said that because it took me back to how much times can change in a very short amount of time. And this is totally irrelevant to probably half of our listeners. But as someone who was at Frisco High, like Centennial means absolutely nothing to me because they didn't exist. Like when I came into Frisco, it was Salina and Commerce. We're like, you know what I mean? And then here you are talking about, and I'm like, I would like, I mean,
you wouldn't have cared, but for us, that was everything. I just want to be Frisco.
Like, it wasn't even like they didn't even exist until after I left, and it's just funny though how. But if you talk to anyone who's been to Frisco High in the last nearly 20 years, God, that's crazy.
Yeah.
They would feel the same way because that's become this rivalry.
Something.
Yeah. But
I used to come home for the Frisco Centennial game, bro. Like that means something to us.
I'm like, I could care less. Like,
shout out to Tommy Brooker, man. He used to work for FC Dallas. We got a suite at the game because he worked for FC Dallas to watch a high school football. That's completely awesome. Texas high school football, though. Like
totally Texas high school football. Yeah. I'm sitting here like, does Frisco play? They play Denton Ryan this year.
Right.
They're gonna beat us by 40 again. They play Salina. Commerce on the schedule this year, guys. No.
Good times.
Because it was weird. Like I just happened to be in the era of Frisco when there really wasn't that because they were coming off of Salina and Commerce becoming the big kind of rivalry, so to speak, and then transitioning into a higher classification where they were still sort of trying to find that, and it just
never clicked.
Just wasn't there for those 3 years that I was there. Anyways. Back to national title. We just totally rabbit trailed, but that's anything's possible on the Blue Bloods College Game Time podcast. I'm going Bama. I'm hoping it'll be a good game just for my own college fandom because it's the last game of the season. I can't believe we've made it this far. And if you're listening, man, check out our YouTube and hit subscribe. We're constantly putting up bonus content, and I mean, like I said, we're committed to keep rolling with this podcast until either the wheels fall off or the wheels upgrade. It's gonna go.
The wheels are gonna upgrade, man. The wheels are upgrading, man. Shout out to everybody that's subscribed, supported us. Yo, stay up on board on that YouTube, like you said, Trey, because man, I think that's where a lot of our off-season news goes on. We update every day, so stay up on that. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't subscribed, man. We're foot to the floor, pedal to the metal on this.
Well,
I think that's it, man. So. Here it is. So make sure you guys follow us on social media. Make sure you guys follow us on social media. you'll see Trace beneath us if you're watching. That's
Mm-hmm.
on Twitter is at It's Trey Smith. At me on Twitter is at Real B Holmes. We love engaging with you guys. Make sure you follow us on all platforms. Blue Blood CGT is our handle on every platform. And you can do the same thing for YouTube. YouTube is where it's at, though, man. We're telling you, YouTube is where it's at. It's where we're really just pushing our foot on it because I don't know, we just love the platform. It gives us an opportunity to like put out so much content. And so we're committed to give you content every day of the week. You're getting a new piece of content. So subscribe to that, man. And hey guys, it's college basketball season. So sharpen up on your college basketball. Tommy said he was going to start looking at more college basketball so he can stay in tune. Getting ready. We'll probably do a March Madness bracket challenge, the whole nine. But man, we love you guys. Thank you guys for committing. And until next week, peace.
Peace.